All right, so welcome back, everybody, to the new episode of the Cognition School. We have a really, really special guest and a dear friend of mine via Instagram, and this is actually it's actually the first time we're even meeting. So this is going to be a really, really great conversation. Welcome, Jeff Lobman from Vanguard Hockey, and thanks for joining the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. It's long coming, and it's nice to finally put a face to all the messages that we've been shooting back and forth for all this time. Nice to finally have like an actual interaction and introduction.
Yeah, this is great. And first of all, where are you located?
So now I'm in Reno, Nevada. I'm originally from Long Island, New York. I've been out here in Reno, Nevada for about 5 months now.
Oh, right. You moved out there recently.
Yeah.
What made you get out there?
So a little bit of change of scenery, kind of expanding the company out to the west as much as well. But been living on the East Coast for quite some time now. My fiance and her family, and we have a young son, so her family lives out here, and we wanted to be closer to family. And there's an up-and-coming, really booming market here, especially with what's happening down in Vegas with the Golden Knights. It's really expanded throughout the state, and we have an amazing facility here. It's a great program, and I'm really blessed and really happy and excited to be a part of this now. So it's a fun change, certainly different from anything I've ever done before.
That's great. And there's a team down in Reno, is there not?
They have a brand new East Coast team over in Lake Tahoe, which is an affiliate of the Golden Knights. And there's some rumblings that an AHL team from Arizona may be moving up here, but I guess we'll see. Time will tell.
Awesome. I actually trained one of the guys that's at Tahoe now. So his name is Arthur Cholak.
Okay.
So he's a defenseman that plays for Tahoe.
They're really doing well this year. I'm really happy to see that, and they got a great coaching staff, and the fan base is pretty good. It's a little tough sometimes for the people from Reno to get up there with the weather and whatnot, but I know that the fans down here in Reno, whenever they can get a chance to get to the lake to watch them play, they certainly try.
That's awesome. And how is the weather down there right now?
We're about to get smoked by an absolute crush of a storm that's coming through this whole area. But
okay.
I'll tell you the truth, man. It's a beautiful place. It's very picturesque, and most days it's sunny, 50-something. It's certainly not a bad place to live.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I mean, I love Nevada. I've been there many, many times, and it's a fun place to be too. Like I love the Golden Knights atmosphere. That's the best thing I love about it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I really think that the Knights are doing a good job of growing the game and spreading the game. And, they have a good learn to play program, and they come and they do like this. Right before I moved here, they had like this road trip that they did where they hit all the kind of the markets. And I saw videos and pictures, and it looked fantastic. And I really think that what Vegas is doing is spreading throughout the state, and it's only going to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is the hockey market there for youth hockey?
I mean, you would be shocked to hear me say it, but we have well over like 450 kids in the one rink in this city.
Wow.
They are diehard. I mean, just this morning I was on the ice. There had to be close to 30 kids at 5:30 in the morning on the ice doing lessons. I mean, we have a packed city house league program. We have a full travel program that's doing quite well. I certainly did not know what to expect moving out here as far as, what the market would be. But it is a thriving, growing market. And, we're looking into, I say we very loosely as I'm very new here, but we're looking into building a second sheet and expanding and growing. And the University of Nevada, Reno just got its acceptance to D2 club, and they're going to keep growing. It's just primed to boom. It's really just ready to explode, and I'm very blessed to be here as as the city's taking that next step up in the hockey market world.
Well, good for you, man, because it takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing right now, because you take a bit of a risk, and then you're trying to grow with the community. So that's great.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean hockey on the West Coast it's been climbing for quite some time, right? I mean, you had the LA Junior Kings win a national championship, and back in the day, the California Wave used to be an incredible organization, and they're coming back now with some really great leadership and great coaching. And I just think that the people like to think of those traditional hockey markets as like really that's kind of where it only is, but it's really not. And you're getting markets like the North Carolinas, look at the Floridas and the West Coast, and we're really starting to grow this game the right way. And players, I mean, people like to revert back to this. I guess I'll do it to be cliche, but like guys like Austin Matthews who were coming out of Phoenix, right? I mean, who would have thought Phoenix and hockey as far as youth development 20 some odd years ago, it just wouldn't really come up in conversation. And now it's all the rave, right? So these non-traditional markets are really starting to grow and produce some unbelievable talent. And it's really great to see and to be a part of this next step for especially Nevada, but Reno itself is just really awesome. Really awesome.
Yeah. And are you coaching a team right now, or are you just doing training out there?
So I'm doing training, but I am helping with pretty much every team in the youth organization, from the city league all the way up. I like to help out as much as I can whenever I'm asked, and hop on the bench if they need be. And had a great experience the other night. So to kind of give an overview, they don't really have a U18, U16, so to speak. They kind of call it like the high school division, but it's not really affiliated with any high schools. And we had our senior graduation night the other night, and it was a nice 4-3 win. And I mean, we must have had well over 400, close to 500 people in the arena for that game. Really amazing showing from the people here in Reno to give support to those seniors who are graduating and either going to college or going to play junior next year. I mean, I not really used to that, even in bigger markets. Like when we had high school games in New York and stuff, we would never clock 500 people at a game like that. So to see it here in Reno is really cool.
Yeah, and I think UNLV has also had tremendous success with their hockey program recently.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I mean, what did they beat? They beat Denver recently. I mean,
yeah,
it's like one of the biggest upsets they say in college hockey. Really incredible, right? To see something like that. And I think it gives a different perspective to players about what club hockey can be for people. I think there's a misconception on whether it's the level or the viability of it, or why would I do that? You have guys in juniors that are only looking at the NCAA, and now there's variables being thrown in there as well. With the CHL opening up, and things are going to start getting pushed down, and it's going to become a lot harder for players to make that level. And club hockey can be and is a very legitimate level for a lot of players, and I certainly don't think it should be counted out. And I think that UNLV really helped that argument out.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because my son played ACHA hockey last year in Chicago, and he had a great time.
Yeah,
great time, and it was actually quite competitive, right? So, and what I love about it is, as a parent, is I love to go to those Michigan schools and kind of see like what they're all about, because that's those are some of the teams that he played against, and It was great. It was great hockey everywhere, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really good players that, for one reason or another, they're playing club. Whether that's what they wanted to do, maybe some things didn't pan out, but there's a lot of really good hockey and good coaching at the club level. It's not just this D1 or bust attitude. There's a lot of guys that are very, very talented. And I mean, you even had, Arizona State used to be a D1 club team, and they did well enough and grew and became a very good D1 team, So, I mean, you can't just make that jump unless you have talent.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you said you mentioning earlier that you grew up in Long Island. So, what was that like for you, and where did you kind of grow up playing?
So, I grew up playing for the New York Bobcats and the Long Island Gulls. Long Island's always been a very strong hockey market, and I may be a little bit biased, but I feel like that late 80s, early 90s age group was unbelievably talented. And you saw so many guys go really far in their careers out of that age group. And we were very, very blessed to have some incredible coaches. Alexei Nikiforov, Slava Korgazov, Dan Marshall, Ron Winnicke. I mean, these are guys that have developed hundreds, if not honestly thousands at this point, after all this time, of players that have played NCAA and pro and junior hockey. And I mean, you've got guys that are still heavily involved in the game out of that group. And, it was a very competitive I may go so far as to say a cutthroat type of environment, but it bred extreme competition, and we were all in, and it's still going to this day. I mean, you still have teams like the Long Island Gulls and the Arrows and PAL Islanders that are doing really big things on Long Island. I mean, I don't want to leave out the Royals because I know people are going to watch this and they're going to say, my son plays for the Royals, but all of those teams are very, very solid, and they do really big things. So it's really nice to see that the market that I grew up in is still holding strong and doing big things and doing things in a right way.
Yeah, and maybe this is probably just it is my only observation, but anytime I go down to kind of the Long Island, or I used to see the Gulls as well, and because my son played for Mercer at one point,
Okay.
so I had a good chance to kind of see like what that East Coast was like. And I'm telling you, like, the one big difference I find with especially in the hockey in that region, and maybe I mean there's other regions too, I'm sure, but the level of grit
Oh yeah,
is astonishingly higher than what I see here in the G, right? So like in the G here, we have, there's 20, last time I heard, there was about 24,000 kids that play the GTHL, right? So there's volume, right? And there's tons of skills. I mean, I have a rink down the street 5 minutes from me, right? Like, and I got another one 8 minutes north of me. I got another one 7 minutes east of me, and so there's certainly resources, and there's certainly a lot of skill and talent, without question. But what I saw when my son was playing against, like, the Titans and the Rockets and the Gulls and PAL and those guys, like the grit level, it's almost like a football like mentality, right? It's
yeah,
like they go hard,
yeah.
right?
That's certainly culturally ingrained in us as hard workers. It's kind of like if I was going to put like an NHL player to it, it's like everybody wants to be the best Milan Lucic. They want to be hard nosed, but also incredibly skilled. I know I may get some flack for this, but guys like Tom Wilson are like everybody's hero. It's the guy that is willing to do the dirty work, but also has all the skill in the world. I think it's very much a reason why guys like Sean Avery were everybody's favorite player for the Rangers, because it's just that cultural thing in us to have that hard-nosed attitude, never giving up, never quitting, doing everything you can for your team, fight to the last whistle, and it's a game of attrition, and not only are we going to outskill you, but we're going to outwork you in every aspect of the game. And win, lose, or draw, you're going to know that you just went through a war playing against the team from Long Island, and that's very much been the culture of the game for since even before I was playing. And I think that serves us very well, and I think it will continue to serve us very well. I mean, you've got look at James Hagans, who's about to argumentatively go 1 or 2 right now in the draft next year, and guys like him. He is just so outrageously skilled, but he's also not afraid to get into the corners and do the dirty work. And I think that he's like a perfect example of Long Island hockey. If you could really, really put it into one human being, like all the positive aspects of Long Island hockey, it would be a James Hagans.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. So, and as far as like Vanguard hockey, how did you kind of come about doing that?
So, I've been in the hockey industry since 2015, so it's been a decade now. And over the first few years, I was working in Florida for the Florida Junior Panthers and the Florida Panthers organization. And I had another company and ended up splitting ways for mutual reasons. And when I was thinking about what I was going to do next, it was, how can this be different from everything else that I see? In my life, I've been very blessed to be able to travel the world and live abroad in many places. And I wanted to take a world aspect to it. And my background, while I was playing and in the time after my career was done, was in hospitality. So I wanted to kind of mix the two together. And I wanted foreign influence more here in the States. So not to name drop here, but a close friend of mine is Peter Sikora, and it was really kind of a collaborative thing to start thinking outside the box. Okay, why don't we start bringing in coaches from around the world and kind of do these super events? Kind of have like a music festival of coaches. And that's kind of where this idea kind of started from and kept snowballing. And it was like, well, this is one of the most international games there is, right? Like football is very United States centric. And I know that baseball is kind of a Western Hemisphere game. So how can we start bringing in all these influences from around the world to do this? So it was like, all right, the other thing is, and this is, I really want to make sure that it's clear, this is not a knock on anybody's business model. It's just not the way that I wanted to do it. Was a lot of camps, and I'm speaking specifically from the camp point of view here, is you have a lead guy, and then for whatever the business model reasons is, you usually have junior coaches, whether they're junior players or college guys, and they could be incredibly skilled players, but it's not their day job to be coaches. I wanted men and women whose pure profession was hockey. And so that whether it's a station-based practice or not, the only person that is talking to your child is a professional. This is what they do every single day of their life. So you're kind of taking this like little trip around the world, right? So let's say the theme of the day is passing. You're going to have the best skills coach from Germany, Latvia, Russia, Czech Republic, Canada, wherever it may be, and you're going to get their point of view and their style of it. And by the end of it, your kid now has this totally different viewpoint of anything that they've been told. Because, listen, I grew up here in the States. I was lucky enough to have some Russian coaches, but a lot of guys, it's just the American or Canadian model. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with that, but it creates very uniform. So it's this whole, thinking worldly and getting this international feel for the game and bringing it to people's doorsteps. Instead of them having to travel to each of these individual places, we'll bring it right to you. And nobody had ever done anything like that before. This was a totally foreign concept. And what I'm seeing now, which is amazing to see, is that this has started a ripple effect. Now you're seeing a lot more coaches collaborating with people, whereas before they weren't. They were very hesitant to do so. In that aspect, I'd like to take a little bit of credit. I'm not a big like, hey, great job. That's not what I'm looking for. But I've certainly seen over the last 4 years of this happening that we're seeing way more collaboration events with people coming in from all over the place and working with each other. Maybe not so much on the scale of what Vanguard is doing, but that's totally fine as long as we keep growing the game and we're getting different influences and expanding these kids' skill sets. That's really all that matters at the end of the day, and it's been a beautiful thing to see.
That's that concept I love. Like that's like amazing, and obviously you've had tremendous success with a lot of the camps that you run, and we certainly know the same coaches that you're bringing in, and they're great. So I think you've done a fantastic job, and that's the one thing that I find is kind of missing in the coaching community, right? It's like I was reading an article the other day that talked about consultants, right? So I used to be in the business side, I used to be in the IT side, and doing a lot of corporate stuff, and we were kind of like looking at consultants as, oh, you don't own anything, you are a nobody, right? Because you just kind of come in, you sprinkle some pixie dust, and then you run away, right? In the corporate world,
right? Yeah.
And if you're a consultant, and I'm like, wait a minute, coaches are in many ways the same, right?
Yeah.
They sprinkle a little bit of pixie dust, then they just run away. They don't necessarily own anything. There's nothing in the game of hockey that says, I own that, unless you have like a widget, right? Like a pen or whatever, right? Like, so, coaches I find are missing that element of, okay, how do I not become a consultant? How do I own something, right? Whether that be a tangible product or a piece of software or something that says, that is mine,
right?
For the next, at least, for a couple of years. Because other than that, people are easily replaceable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was kind of reading about this whole concept of a consultant, and many coaches are like that. They just kind of come in, do their thing, and then they go, and they think they own that, but they actually don't. Right? There's nothing tangible in their hand that says that is mine. And so I'm always like interested in people like yourself, because you kind of took a step back first and said, how do I build something that is unique in the marketplace outside of, hey, I'm just a better coach, or I played in the NHL, or I played here, or I played there, right? That's great, but that'll only last a very, very short period of time.
Of course.
But I love what you're doing, because I've got your Instagram page up here, and they're great. Like, obviously you guys, you got Mike and Joachim, and I think Roger was also there from JRM, right? And you've done significantly, great in terms of everything that you're putting together.
Working with Joachim and Mike over the past year, and we've created a partnership, has been one of the most amazing things that I've done with my life and my professional life. Those two are some of the greatest people I've ever met, and they are so brilliant in their own aspects. Joachim, his style has helped me grow as a coach exponentially. And as good as I thought I may be, and I'll always be the first to say I don't like when people say, like, I'm the end all of end alls, or I'm the greatest. Once you think you know everything, you've lost. You have to have an open mind all the time. And I have become such a better coach working with Joachim, and Mike has helped me as a man. Mike is so brilliant with his background with the federal police, and then working in ice hockey for the past 15 or plus years. Structure, the two of them, just amazing people. So I'm really glad you brought them up, because it's been a great thing over the past year, and we're continuing to grow that partnership. And we started with the East Coast last year in New York, and we hit Florida at the end of this year, and then this year we're looking, we're going to do a bunch of different states, from Texas over here in Reno, and just keep growing. But it keeps that international aspect of it. And as Vanguard, we're still going to do those kind of super events. But I will be growing this with those two especially. I just think that what they've done for this game is so visible. That's the word I was looking for. It's so visible. Their style of skating, their smoothness, their approach to teaching, and it has certainly, spread throughout the hockey world as a lot of things that guys take bits and pieces of, and they add it to their repertoire. So, I mean, they started this 15, 16 years ago, I believe, out in Sweden. And we've really taken it and run with it here in the States. And they just have such a fantastic outlook on not only player development, but parent development. It's a huge part of our model working together, is also being very inclusive of the parents, being very transparent with everything that we're doing, because this is a team effort. This is not shut the parents out and I'm just going to take your check. That's not how this is going to be with us. You're going to be very heavily involved in your players' development, and it's a unit. We're treating this as a unit, and we've seen fantastic results with that as well. Being as inclusive as we are, that's something that when we get feedback from people, that's a lot of the topic of discussion, is how transparent and open and willing to work with the parents we are. So that's certainly something that's at the forefront of our development model.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge point, because we're pretty much the same here. Like, even at our facility in Toronto, that we actually emphasize a huge aspect to the facility for parents, right? So we have a full kitchen. We've got lounges for the parents. We've got boardrooms. We've got even like those little soundproof phone booths.
Oh wow,
for the parents.
I like that.
So they could take their Zoom calls, because yeah, in our previous location, it was a much smaller facility, so they didn't have room to sit down and relax. And what I found was that some of the parents used to go into their cars in the parking lot to take a Zoom call. And
Mhm.
I'm like, that's not right. Like, why do they have to leave the building to do that?
Yeah.
So the first thing when we moved in here, I said, I need my phone booth. And yeah, we take really great care of parents because obviously they're part of the whole decision making process, as well as the biggest supporters when we're not in the room, right? So if we're not there to coach the kids or make them feel good, now it's on the parents, like on the way to the rink or after the game.
I think it's all those little things, right? Like that's a fantastic idea to have those phone booths so that a parent doesn't feel like, oh, well, I have to, how am I supposed to support this if I can't work? Right. So I need to be able to do that. But I also don't want to have to go, sit in my car. But it's certainly something that I would think is it's one of those little things, right? It's hospitality. It's customer service. We have the ability to do this. We should do this. We're getting it done, and it's a non-negotiable. And I think that that's amazing that you did that. That's really great.
Yeah, funny enough, you talk about being in hospitality. I used to be a hotel concierge in university, so I'm very familiar with the hospitality side too. And
People forget
yeah,
that this is a customer service business. It is
absolutely.
in every aspect of it. It's a customer service business. It's very easy to see it as I'm just a development coach or any one of those denominations. But at the end of the day, we are serving customers. We're serving parents. We're serving players. So hospitality is at the core of this entire business. And not to get negative, I would never point anybody out, but I feel like sometimes that gets lost. Sometimes that gets lost, unfortunately, and I think that there are many groups that hold that as a cornerstone to their model, and there's many that don't, and I think that that's a big differentiating point between the two.
Hmm. Just going through a couple of your other posts, it's fantastic because you got Steve Bach in there that you've done some work with, and I know Steve really, really well too.
I love Steve. Man, he has the energy to completely light up a room. Every time he walks in, he's got $1 million grin on his face. He is just so happy to be there. I love talking with him. I had the pleasure of meeting his wife and kids when he came down and worked with us in Florida. He has a beautiful family. He's a great father. I cannot say enough nice things about Steve. I mean, I could go on for ages. I mean, when he found out that I lived and worked in Southeast Asia for a while, I mean, the guy was absolutely floored. And we were talking about, that side of the world for quite some time. And, we really hit it off. And I love him and I wish him nothing but the best in this life. He's a great coach. He's the punch turn king. And just what he has such a skill of being able to converse with players of all ages. And he's so smooth on the ice. Just a pleasure to work with, and I really hope and look forward to working with him again sooner than later. I know we're both very busy guys, and we have conflicting schedules and this, that, and the other, but I really hope to be able to work with him again. He's a fantastic coach and an even better person.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I mean, he's in London normally, so he's 2 hours away from me. But anytime I make a trip out that way, I always try to see if he's around. He actually came to my son's game
Oh, did he?
when he played in London too.
Oh,
So
that's great.
fantastic guy, fantastic guy.
It's,
And it's rare to have like an Asian coach, right? Like in Ontario,
right?
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's definitely something unique that he brings to the table as well. So just going through your Instagram post, so tell me a little bit about how you kind of approach Instagram, right? What do you think about when you're going to post something? I have my views, but I'd love to hear kind of like what your thoughts are about how you use your Instagram post as a tool for your business.
Instagram and media has been a very important piece of our business model since day one. I keep using the word blessed because that's how I feel on a daily basis. I really am blessed that I have had the fortune to be able to work with some of the best videographers, on ice videographers in this game. I mean, you talk about guys like John Rowe, from Drone Media, who a lot of people would know from doing a lot of Swaggy P's videos in the beginning. Mike Simonetti, who's been with me since I first started coaching with cinematography, and Matt Schoen with MS Films. I mean, those three guys are able to capture this game, I mean, unbelievably. So having any one of those three at our events is certainly going to highlight and showcase what we're doing on the ice. Our approach to videos is very much a story of whatever the skate is, whatever the day is. It's supposed to be a quick 20-second day in the life. You know, this was the skate, and capture those highlight moments of those skates. But we're also trying to tell the story of what we're trying to work on. So we give explanations on what the day's theme was, what the purpose of this is, why they're doing this, because we don't want to get into any type of, quote unquote, comment section wars on why are they doing this and why are they doing that. We try to give a perfectly good explanation. Anything past that, sure, we'll have a conversation with you. But I like to float the line between informational and entertainment, because I think that's really the best way for us to showcase what we do as a company. Sometimes that runs into hurdles, because there's a lot of people that see social media as purely an entertainment, and a lot of people that want to do it specifically for information. And both of those are right. I like to flirt the line. It needs to be captivating. It needs to be exciting, but it also needs to show what we're doing. But at the same time, we don't create drills and don't create trainings to look good on camera. That's not what we do. We want things that are going to be transferable and to actually help with a player's, progression and skill development. And that's where these guys with the cameras come in, right? Because we'll make something that may not look, that it's certainly not made to look good on camera. It's made for development, but they'll make it look incredible. And that gets kids, parents, and ourselves very excited to see what these guys come up with, and to be able to highlight and showcase what we're doing on the ice. I think you hear it a lot, like, oh, that's an Instagram drill, or that's this for, they do it for social media. And I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about kind of like an overgeneralization. And I think that stuff does happen. And I think that people put a lot of stock, as they should, though, and that's where the double-edged sword comes in the power of social media. And sometimes they just try to do too much, kind of like a player who's trying to do too much on the ice. It's too much of the flashy stuff to, quote-unquote, look good on camera, but that's not really going to be transferable or used. So in my personal opinion, I say, what's the point of doing that? But listen, to each their own. I think that our approach has certainly been working for us. I mean, in the last 3 years, I think now I'm over 18,000. So people seem to be catching on, and it's going pretty well. And we use it as an advertising tool. At the end of the day, that's really, really what it is for us. It's an advertising tool, and it helps us expand to markets of people that wouldn't necessarily know who we are. So in that aspect, I think that between what we are doing on the ice, which is good, and our videography and media team, it seems to be a really good recipe for success right now.
Yeah, no, I think, and I think you've done a bang up job with that too. I think very similar track with the way I come up with my posts as well, where like you said, you're trying to tell a story of what the day is like, at a camp, and what the flow looks like, some of the people that join your camps, and the collaborations that you do, and like you said, it's a tool that allows you to let people know who you are, and as a person, and also what you're doing as well, and not just about the drill, where, like you said, there's all these comment wars that happen based on a 30-second clip. Like, that's not, I don't understand the context at all, right?
So we had this, and this came from John Rowe, one of the videographers that we work with, who was a former NHL player, unbelievable human being, and he came up with the concept of Guest Coach Friday, and we did that for quite some time. And we had so many people from coming in all over the world that actually that idea lasted for quite some time. And every Friday we would do a specific video on a coach from around the world that had come in and worked with us at one of our events. And we weren't just showing them doing their drill. It was very much interpersonal, whether it's conversation or correction or just how they are. And that helps, in trust, give some trust to us from the parents that my kid's out there with good people. They don't know what's being said to them in the corner. They don't know what's being said to them while they're doing the drill. But if we can give them that small glimpse of, hey, this is what's being said, this is how it's being said, a parent is much more likely to trust us as a company and the coaches that we're bringing in than just showing highlights of coaches going around, obstacles and this, that. And that seemed to be a huge hit as well. And it helped highlight how amazing these coaches from around the world are. And I thought that was a brilliant idea because it's not just about me. This is not an ego thing. It never has been. In fact, there were people that were telling me that I needed to be on camera more because I wasn't going on there because it was all about the players. And then for a while, it was all about all the other coaches because I felt like if you were signing up for a camp at this point, you probably knew who I was already. So I didn't need to highlight and showcase myself like that. And I think that went a long way also in showcasing and growing these other coaches and their businesses around the world, wherever it may be. So social media has been an incredible tool, but it can also be a rabbit hole, an absolute rabbit hole. And I'd be lying if I said I get a video from a guy and I go, this is the greatest video we have ever made. This is incredible. And then it completely falls flat. And I just go, how did that not resonate with the viewer? And then I'm just, as I said for the third time, I'm just down the rabbit hole with the media guys. Like, what did we do? How did this? I'm thinking this is the greatest video ever made. And it just doesn't resonate. So it's a constant work in progress. But it is fun. I'll tell you, it's a lot more fun than doing a lot of other things I've done in my life. And I'd rather be sitting there chopping it up with a media guy than working 16 hours at a hotel or a bar or any of those other things. So it's not bad.
Yeah, for sure. I think because I noticed like you had your first post. It looks like I'm looking all the way back here, October 4th, 2021.
Yeah.
Right. So that would have been just, I guess, tail end of COVID, let's say, right? So and I think that's definitely around that same time that I started following you as well, when we were all kind of stuck at home and not doing anything. And I was kind of in that same boat as well. Like when we were training in my basement or in my garage, that let's show what we're doing, and like we're literally showing drills. And after a while, I realized that it didn't serve anybody.
Yeah.
Outside of just me documenting and putting it online. So I've completely done a 180 on how I see Instagram. And the way I look at it now is it's more of an inspiration tool to get people to take the next step, whatever that step is. Register here or message me here or do this or do that, as opposed to educational.
Yeah.
And so I've actually taken a step away from educational content in terms of the drills that we do here, because the only people that actually get the drills that we're doing are the people that are here.
Right.
And so it's only to serve them. So I've stopped completely posting any type of drill, because it can potentially go down that rabbit hole like you mentioned. But number two, it doesn't really say anything, right? Like, and then you end up having to almost like create like this a subsequent post on trying to explain what it is that you're trying to do,
100%.
and then you get sucked into trying to comment on trying to explain yourself. It's like I'm not going to do that.
I'll tell you, I probably have overdeveloped thumbs from typing responses to people on what the reason for this or that and the other is. And yeah, you're 100% right. I really like the use of that word inspirational. If you don't mind, I'm probably going to take that and run with it.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. I think that's very, very well put on what this is supposed to be. It's supposed to be, hey, if you've never been to one of our events before, this is what the first hour of the day was. It's kind of a documentation, so to speak, but I'm not going to go through everything. It's, if this is something that kind of tickles your curiosity, DM me, message me. We'd love to have you sign up. And that has worked for us. I mean, I think we had players from 7 or 8 states and one from England that came to our camp in Florida this past December. And we've had people from all over the world fly in for events because of social media, because they've seen our videos and liked what they saw and wanted to experience it for itself. So I really like that term. That's probably gonna float around my head for the rest of the day, that it's inspirational, and I'm sure I'm gonna take that and run with it in a media sense as well. So thanks for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I think that's because I heard it from someone else, so I don't even remember who it was, but to me it's like, yeah, let's inspire them to do something. Let's get them excited, and so that's why, like, for me, I just stopped posting stuff altogether. But I'm always kind of pushing the envelope myself and kind of seeing, okay, what type of post I'm not talking going viral, but that are very real. And so what I've done is I use our video review room, our boardroom there, and then I'll just set up a camera, and I've got a kid in front of me, so nobody knows who he is. I'm not showing the content. Well, sometimes I'll show the content on the screen, but it's actually just me trying to explain something, a concept,
Right.
and you can see the kid just going, yeah, no, I agree with that, and I got to try that.
Mm.
And I think that part of the game is actually missing, as far as I'm concerned here, that the coaches just don't have the time,
Yeah.
or they don't have the resources to sit down with the kid and say, okay, one by one, let's figure out exactly how we can help you improve your game. Now, people might argue, oh, Satoshi doesn't know what he's talking about. But you know what? At the end of the day, these kids, I see them improving. I see them getting better. I see them enjoying the game. I see them having more confidence. I see them having less anxiety about a game situation. So they feel safe, and then they go out and try it. To me, it's a win.
That's a huge success. Right? That's a huge success.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
That old adage, if you try to please everybody, you please nobody. Anytime you're doing something well, people are always going to, you're always going to have doubters in this world, or people that are, going against the grain and saying, oh, that doesn't work, this, that, the other. And a lot of times it's because they have a product of their own that they're trying to sell you themselves, unfortunately. But that's just the way business and the world is. But I know firsthand that you're doing a fantastic job with your program. I think that it is certainly something that is lacking from this game. And I do believe that this is something that should be done by a professional. I mean, this is your line of work. This is what you do on a day-to-day basis. There's nobody that's going to do it better than somebody that does it every single day and has a passion and a love and a know-how for it. It goes with skill development too. It's the same thing, right? So, but I think that you're doing a fantastic job, and I love the idea of having an actual facility for it. It's not just, I think that there's credit to it, and there's things you can do over a Zoom call, but there's nothing like having the person right next to you and going through it and having that relationship. Because a quote that I was told, and I've used it on podcasts before, and it's been a cornerstone of the way that I coach, is you have to connect with a player before you can ever correct them. And it's much easier, I should say, to grow that connection with a player when you are with them. It's very different over a phone call or a Zoom call or anything like that. So I think that you're doing a bang-up job, and I love seeing your success. It's been really great because, as you said, we've talked for quite some time. Like, we've had conversations for quite some time, and I've always been a big fan of what you're doing. And the mental side of the game is so important. It's so important. It's not just your hands and your feet. You have to be strong, so to speak, between the ears. And I think that what you're doing is really helping players, and it's very easily translatable for you working with them, coming over to do stuff with guys like me and other coaches. That translates immediately. So.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate that. And I love what you said. You have to connect with them before you can correct. So I'm going to write that one down for sure.
So now we've traded.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna kind of switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about your philosophy of development and how you kind of go about, working with some of the kids that you work with. What's kind of like your thought process as well. Just walk us through, like, if you had like a kid that, or a parent actually, that reached out to you and said, "Hey, my kid is say like a U15, no, you say like a U12, right? So kind of in that mid range age group. Like, how do you go about working with them?"
The first thing on the ice would be, I'm going to go back to the word consult. It's kind of like a consultation skate and see, where they're proficient, where they're deficient. But it will always start with the feet. It's always going to start with skating. It's the foundation for everything. You notice that the best skaters are able to grow their other skill sets much faster and stronger. So everything starts with the feet, and then it's body position, body control, which is one of the reasons, to loop them in again, is why I love working with Joachim and Mike so much, because that is their thing. Body discipline, body control, staying in a low position, and that's really a main focus. Then everything else starts to come into play as per game application, game relatable skills. I'm not the type of coach that sets up the orange pucks and does the puck handling through and this and that and the other. I think that there are guys for that are a hell of a lot better at that type of stuff than I am. And if a coach wants their number, I will gladly give it over. I like to stick in my skill set, in my lane, which is those, skating, body discipline, low position, body mechanics is a huge one for me. And then keep it to creating drills that are game situational, and breaking down the game situation before, during, and after the player is performing the drill. The other thing I like to explain to parents, and again, I keep parents very involved. We have usually a once a month to a twice a month meeting if the player's working with me regularly, is a theory that I'm not sure if you're aware of. It's called contextual interference. And Carl Schwarzenbrunner and Colin Danielsmeyer, and I hope I didn't butcher their names because I've met them and they're brilliant. They work with the German Hockey Federation. And Carl gave a presentation at the coach's site on contextual interference. And it is something that I have been doing since I was beginning coaching, but never knew that there was a scientific term to it. And it was changing the context of a particular skill and or adding in different skills, creating a random practice. So giving players the choice on the spot on how they're going to complete said drill. So you lay out, for me, I'll lay out the bones of a drill and then say, okay, for your option to the net and or your shot, you can choose 1, 2, 3, and 4. And there's no wrong answer to it. It's all about how you are able to perform the maneuvers to be able to get to said spot to create said outcome. But not giving them A, B, C, this is exactly how it's done, this is exactly how I want it to be done, and if it's done any other way, this is wrong. Because that's not how the game works. That's not how life works. It's not how really anything works. There's always different options, and yes, there will be different outcomes to said options. But whether it's you're performing a skill and they're going down towards the net, but now they have to do it back away from the net. Okay, you will see players get tripped up. Even though it's the exact same skill, all you did was turn them around, and it's wild how it'll trip them up. The other thing that I like to preach to parents and players is it does not need to be full speed. I think it's one of the old school mentalities that has kind of transferred in, because in our parents' generation, they always wanted them to go as hard and fast as they could with whatever they did. And it's like, well, when you were learning your times tables or learning to read or any of that, were people on top of you screaming, go faster, go faster, go faster? No, it was take your time, figure it out, slow is smooth, smooth is fast type of deal. And I think that that's super important on the ice. We're also not going full speed on the ice all the time. The speed of the game is constantly changing. you're maybe going full speed in a shift like what? I'm not going to give some nonsensical percentage point, but you know what I mean? It's certainly not 100% of your shift. So you need to be able to change speeds and change gears and do all those things. But if your player is so focused on going as fast as they can all the time, they are not worried about the technical aspects of the maneuver and the drill. They're not. They're only worried that mom and dad are going to be screaming at them that they weren't going fast enough, yelling, move, doing all the hand motions and all the things that you've seen a million times. So before we ever get started, it's a conversation. Your child is not going to be going 100% all the time. It's going to gradually increase for whatever the skill of the day, theme of the day is. And by the last drill, boom, then we're going to hit the gas and we're going to see how they can do it at full speed. But if it's an hour session, the first 50, 52 minutes, we're not going full speed. We're probably going to start at about 20 and we're gradually increase the speed. And I think that's very important for parents to understand is just because your player is not moving their feet a million miles an hour does not mean they are not working hard. It is incredibly difficult to play this game. It is the most unnatural game in the world. And you need to take a step back from the mentality that they need to be drenched in sweat when they get off the ice. Otherwise, it's not a good skate and that the coach isn't doing their job. If you want your kid to be drenched in sweat, we can gladly go out to the parking lot after and I'll run them for 45 minutes. I guarantee they'll be drenched in sweat, but they won't learn anything. So what's the, pardon me, what is the purpose of the day? Is it a conditioning skate? Is it a skill development skate? What are we trying? What's the reason we do this? And if we can come to a conclusion on what the reasoning is, then the outcome will be different, right? If you say, my kid just does not have the gas, okay, we can work on that. That's okay. They're not going to, learn any particular skill today. They're going to get more conditioned, but there's a big difference. And I think that skill development and player development takes time. It takes time, and it takes a lot of thought by the player on how to fix that. So there's going to be times to break it down. I try not to do a ton of stopping. I'd rather talk while and physically move them and change them, but sometimes it needs to happen. So I hope that little rant, sorry, I kind of got a little long-winded there, but I hope that gave kind of a picture on my aspect, my take on this. That's the one thing if a parent can take away from what I just said is they don't need to go a million miles an hour. And it's something that I see all over the world. This is not just a here or there problem. This is all over the place. Parents are so concerned about the speed and the quote unquote effort of their player. And they're not worried about whether they're actually going to get better or not. I mean, they're just hoping that that's a byproduct of the skate, that it's just going to happen. But it's not going to if they're only focused on how fast they go. They're not going to be worried about keeping proper body positioning. They're not going to work on their mechanics. They're not going to think through or plan their skate properly. All those things are going to start to fade. And to circle back, to keep this long-winded answer going, I apologize.
No problem.
When a practice is harder, the productivity is going to go down. So it's not always going to look very good. It may look awful. Like they may walk away and just be like, holy smokes, that was terrible. And I'll go meet them in the lobby and say, that was amazing. That was a great skate. They go, how do you come up with that? Well, because it was very hard, right? They didn't stop. They didn't quit. They kept their composure and they were better at rep 10 than they were at rep 1. That's all we're asking for here. We're not asking for any type of, how do you expect a 12U player to just become a McDavid in 1 hour? It's not going to happen. It takes many, many, many hours. What did Malcolm Gladwell say? 10,000 hours?
10,000 hours.
10,000 hours, right? And that's like the baseline, right? Everything up and then it's up. It takes 10,000 hours and then it's up. So it's not always going to look good. Sometimes it's going to look awful, but it can still be a fantastic skate where the player walks away and they learn something. I had a 12U guy this morning. We were on the ice at 5:30 this morning out here. He plays here for the Reno. It's called Hockey Club Reno Ice. It's the travel program here. And at the end of the skate, I asked him what the 5 things were that he learned today. And he bang, 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 just checked all the boxes. And he walked away knowing in his head exactly what he needs to focus on next week. Thank you. Like, fantastic. That's unbelievable. Thank you for coming out. It was a great skate. You did better at the last 10 minutes as you did in the first 10 minutes, and that's all we can ever ask for.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like taking all the notes while you're talking here, but it's phenomenal. Like, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that you mentioned that I'd kind of like. I want to double click on some of them because
Sure.
definitely the top speed one is critical for a lot of the parents out there to really pay attention to, because the first thing I always ask a kid here, and you know, we've got hundreds of kids that we've worked with, where I ask them every single one, what's the best part of your game right now? You know what they all say? Is my speed. Right? So then I say, I always have a follow-up question. How does speed hurt you in a game? In your game? And they're like, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean speed hurts me in a game?
Yeah.
I say literally, like, how can you make mistakes when you're going top speed in a game? And they can't process that because they've never thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would, because when they look confused, I know, right? Like that's when I go, okay, have you ever been in a situation where you're carrying the puck at full speed and all you do is run into traffic? Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
That's when it hurts you in a game, right? Or maybe you're exiting the zone too fast and you're down at the other blue line, the puck is still trying to come out of the zone.
Right.
Because you said you're the fastest kid, and so you just decided to go. And they go, oh. And so it's important for, I think, my point is, I think it's important for us as coaches to kind of expose those areas too, where what they thought their strength could actually be a weakness.
For sure.
Right? Because if you don't have the intelligence to go, wait a minute, I need to drop my speed here a little bit in order for me to go faster later.
Right.
Right. So I think that's a huge piece of, you know, differentiation. The other thing, and maybe if you could elaborate a little bit more on. So you mentioned that like when you're doing a drill, you give them options.
Yep.
Right. So how often do you find where the kids go, what do you mean? Like options, like and it's almost like they want you to tell you the answer.
Great question. Happens every day. It happens every day. And how do I put this? The reasoning behind that is because they're encultured to be given the answers to the test. It's so many drills are designed that this is the only way to do the drill, that they don't know how to think for themselves on the ice. And I think it also comes with, it's so common for coaches to be yelling directions from the bench during a game. You don't let them make the mistake. Like, what is the worst thing that could possibly happen? They score. Obviously, we're in this game to win, but we're also in this for the development of a player. And if we're talking about players at that age group, I promise you, they will never remember that they got scored on that Saturday in October. You know what I mean? Like, but they'll learn to not make the mistake again that got them scored on. If you pull them to the side after, instead of trying to scream directions across the ice, 100 feet at somebody, and now they're not focused on what they're doing. They're focusing on trying to listen to the coach to tell them what to do. Like, you have to let them be critical thinkers. Being a critical thinker is such an important piece of this game, and being able to think on the fly, pardon me, that we're taking away the ability for these kids to do so by only giving them, this is the way it's done. That's just flat out not true. There are so many ways to get something done. You know this probably much better than I do. Definitely, that there's, quote unquote, more than one way to skin a cat. Like, there's going to be different options in a game, and you're boxing them in and pigeonholing them into an eventuality. And it's like, but that's not, it's a crapshoot. What if What if he goes here instead of here? What if he's there instead of here? And what if I come in at this angle? Because once you're changing angles, the whole thing changes, right? The entire approach changes. You could be one step to the right or one step to the left, and now the entire approach changes. So you have to be able to give them options from, okay, let's say you're in this general area. Choose one. I want to see how you figure. I want to see your brain process, and then we can break down that process from there. It's not whether it's right or wrong. It's okay, well, you were able to get in at this angle, but why don't you think about it from this point of view? Okay, now try it again. And they try it again, and then something else may work or it doesn't work. Ooh, that didn't work. Now, okay, why didn't it work? Right? And now you're starting to ask questions and having them answer and figure it out instead of just telling them. And after a while, I'm not sure about you, but after a while, for a guy like me, if somebody's just telling me all the time, it's going to get very, very old very fast. And I'm going to start to tune out. I don't want you to tell me what to do all the time. I need to be able to figure this out on my own, because you're not going to be out there with me during the game. And how about in life? Because at the end of the day, we're teaching life skills through sport. So all of these things have to be transferable. It's if you don't have the ability to be a critical thinker and a problem solver on the ice, you're not going to be able to do it off the ice, where it matters, like in the grand scheme of things, where it matters. So let them try, give them the options. Don't give them the answers to the test, give them the options, and let them see how it plays out. And especially when it comes to training, it's like, again, what is the worst that can happen? It didn't work. Okay, so they come back to the blue line or the goal line or wherever we're starting from, and we do it again. Okay, big deal. It's really not a big deal. Anybody, even if it fails for the entire hour, it's not a big deal. There's nothing wrong with that at all. We can move forward, and guess what? We may not have learned what to do, but we learned over the course of the hour what not to do, and that's a valuable lesson too. So
yeah. Again, I'm just like writing everything down here, but one of the things that that really resonates with me is letting them decide, right? I think today, I mean, minus this whole just being on a mobile device culture, like screen culture, I think everybody just wants answers right now.
100%.
They actually don't want to spend the time to actually solve the problem. When you and I grew up, like, we didn't have Instagram and we didn't have like our mobile devices for instant gratification, right? To get instant answers. Like, it was not at our fingertips. We literally had to call people. We had to go somewhere. We had to fly somewhere. We had to make long distance calls and like to Europe or whatever, and spend oodles amount of money on just to get that one answer. And it's the process of learning that I think is now missing.
Yep.
And right now it's become a process of who can answer me the fastest.
For sure.
Or get me the answers.
It's the general manager over here was a former math teacher, and I saw him in the office the other day doing long-handed math. And I said, you remember back in the day when they would say you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket? It's like, we had to put that time in, like you said, whether it's going to the library. First we had to find a way to get to the library. Okay, then we got to the library. Then we had to do the Dewey Decimal System and go through all the things and find the book on the car. Then we had to go find the book. Then we had to go into the book and read the book. We had to do all of those steps that took a lot of time and effort to find the answer that we were looking for. And now it's just, hey, ChatGPT, what is... And I think that it's an incredible thing to have, but I do think that it has social consequences for sure. I mean, I don't know if we want to go down that rabbit hole right now, because I think that you and I talk about that for quite some time. But
that's probably that's probably a whole other episode right there. We could probably talk for hours for sure.
But I think that again, as things can translate from the ice into the real world, things from the real world transfer to the ice. It's a two-way street.
Absolutely. You know what? I can tell you, and I mean, I love my staff, and so, but I'm very transparent with them. And if I give them a task, I know the first question they're going to ask me is, well, Satoshi, how do I do that? Right? And this is not these are not hockey players. These are adults,
Right.
right? And my response is always the same. I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah.
You figure it out.
Figure it out. That was like,
Figure it out.
I remember it was my second year of junior hockey, and I think that was my coach's favorite quote to our team. It was just figure it out, and not always in like a rude like figure it out. It was figure it out, man. Like you need to be able to figure this out. I cannot hand you everything. You need to be an adult. Act like an adult and figure it out. And there was this I'm going to tell a story probably more towards the adults than the kids here, so I apologize. I was in Germany working with Alex Kirch, and one of the players on the Straubing Tigers and I went out for a pint at the end of the day, and right in front of my face was all the taps, okay? And I stupidly looked at the barman and I said, "What do you got on tap?" And the man looks at me and he gives me this quote that will stick with me for the rest of my life. He goes, "Do you always search with your mouth?" And what he meant was like, do you not use your eyes or try to figure it out for yourself? The first thing that you wanted to do was ask the question and be given the answers. The answers are legitimately 5 inches in front of your face, yet you still needed to ask me. And just the way he said it so boldly and so bluntly, it will stick with me for the rest of my life. It's so true that do you always search with your mouth? Like, do you always have to just ask for the answer? Why don't you search for it? And I thought it was so brilliantly and so stereotypically German put. It was just such a wonderful moment, but it transcends that situation for sure. It's use your eyes, use your senses. How can you figure this out before you ask for the answer? And I thought that was just such a wonderful interaction that will stick with me and go into my coaching life forever. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I think definitely, spend the time, right? Like spend the time doing your research. I mean, I tell my staff, I'm like, as soon as they ask me that question, I'm like, I don't care if you search for it, but figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. You've got tools at your fingertips now to do that. I don't know. I think one of them was like, how do I put this furniture? Like, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't even know. Right. So I can't even tell you if I knew the answer. Not only would I not tell you, I wouldn't even know. I think the other thing is, and maybe you'll agree with this because you've been coaching for a long time, but it's almost like the kids want permission from the coaches to have that freedom to explore. And I think that's also another piece that's missing because we have a concept here called the green light, right? It's like, hey, I give you the green light to X. Right? Like go fall flat on your face. I want to see how you do it on your own. I give you the green light to do it. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, really? Like they kind of look at me with a puzzled face, right? It's like, and I used to tell my son the same thing. Rio, like I give you the green light to just go and hit someone, fall flat on your ass, right? But go hit someone.
Right.
And all of a sudden, like they change like instantly. It's not even a skills issue. It's some block that made them think that, I have to do it this exact way or else I'm going to pay the consequence, which means I'm probably going to get less ice time and I'm not going to be played, and then down goes my career. So they go through all this process of what happens if I'm wrong. And I think coaches need time to give them the green light, which is what we call it, and say, you're good, just go do what you need to do.
I like that green light concept. I again, not to be like a sociologist or anything, but do you think that has to do with kind of the structured life that we have as a society put together for children these days? That I had this conversation with Patrick Eliash about 2 years ago about how structured kids' lives are these days, and it's like it goes from this to this to this to this to this, and it's so that has to, in my opinion, manifest in their brain that everything is structured. And I don't know where the fear of failure really came in for kids, because I feel like when I was growing up, it wasn't there as much. We were more free-minded, so to speak. I'm sorry if that's not as eloquently put as I'd like to put it, but to try things and fail. And I think you're 100% onto something where they are so worried and concerned. Maybe concerned is probably the better word, about that the end result being a failure and what the effects and consequences are going to be of said failure, that they don't even want to try and potentially have a success because they're so crippled by that fear of failure. I don't know where that came from. I wish I knew more. But it's certainly something that I've seen more. I've been coaching now for 10 years, and I've certainly seen it more in the last 4 or 5 than I did in the first 4 or 5. So I think that this is something that is a progressing, in my personal opinion, problem. I would go so far as to call it a problem.
And I think this is more of a parental issue where, like I follow a basketball coach, Steve D'Agostino, and he's absolutely phenomenal with some of the stuff that he talks about. And the most recent one that he came across, and I remixed it and shared it and stuff as well, but he was talking about the ROI of sports. And most parents, I hope, understand the concept of an ROI, right? Return on your investment.
Yep.
And a return on your investment of time and money, which is really what it comes down to. And I think they feel that because I've invested so much in you, I should get something back from you.
Yeah.
And of course, the cost of playing any sport, really, it's not even just hockey. The cost of living is going through the roof.
Yep.
And so trying to put your kid in sports, it's an investment, right? Like, I'm not ashamed to say it, but I probably spent close to $500,000 on my son, right? For school, training, tuition, travel, equipment, yearly costs, whatever. That was literally like hard dollars,
Yeah.
right? And I'm sure a lot of other people probably spend just as much, if not more, and they expect a certain return. And that return could be, becoming a pro and making money, or getting into, being a doctor or a dentist or a lawyer, going to school, right? Go through NCAA, get your free ride, right?
Yeah.
And then that way, that's how I get my money back. Yeah. So and then when that career comes to an end, that's when people kind of go a bit crazy, right? Because they're like, I've invested so much time and money on you. How come you can't go further with it? And I think that's becoming a lot more of an issue as compared to when you and I played. It was just, you just played, right? Like, and when you had your season end, you go and do nothing. You go swimming and play other sports. And now I think is becoming a lot more of a path, a structured path, where it's like, if you fall off this path, you're going to be a loser.
Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts about this. I think that if you're doing this investment purely to see some type of financial return, I think you're already in it for the wrong reason. I think that you should be seeing this as an investment into the development of your child as a human being, not just as an athlete, whatever sport this is. I mean, we're hockey specific guys, so we can keep it to that. But at the end of the day, you want your son or daughter to be a good person. You want them to be confident. You want them to be a problem solver, critical thinker. You want them to be able to have said, I did my best at this in every aspect. I cut no corners. And all of those skills and attributes are going to transfer to their everyday lives. To, at some point, the game ends. And I don't care one bit. I truly don't care one bit if you are the greatest hockey player to ever walk the face of the earth. If you are a terrible person, that is what you are first. That's it. If your son or daughter ends up being like a real stain on society, so to speak, but they can do all these incredible things on the ice. I could not care. Because at the end of the day, they're a human being before they're a hockey player. So it's the return on the investment, as far as I'm concerned, is the development of your child into an adult, a functioning adult, good citizen, good person. Anything after that is a huge bonus. I'm not saying that you shouldn't strive for incredible things, because I think that that's part of it. I think that if you go into it with the mindset that I want to be a pro or go to college, that is unbelievable. That's fantastic. I think that's only going to make you a better person and a better hockey player. And you need to have goals. You need to have goals with whatever you do. But I stand by my statement that if a parent is getting into this because they're looking for some type of financial recovery at the end of the day from this, some type of, my son's going to be a pro and he can write me a check for the, call it, keep the number, the $500,000 that I put into it, you are really in this for the wrong reasons. And your player is going to see you for your true colors, and it's not going to end up well for your relationship with your kid. And I'm not saying don't push your kids. I think there's ways. I think that's also another totally different podcast episode. I'm not a believer in the everything should always be fun. I'll be flat out with that too. This is, at some point, it changes over. I think that in the beginning it starts with passion and love and fun. And I think that there always has to be an aspect of fun. But if you're purely basing your practice plans and or whatever it is on fun, that it's only about fun all the time, you're never going to see real growth. You're going to see somebody who only sees it as fun. And at some point, it's going to become a job. And that's where that passion and love that started when it was all fun will continue to keep them going on the days that are terrible, because there are going to be days that are terrible. You cannot shelter your player, whether it's a coach or a parent, from hard times, because that's the only way they're going to grow. If they have no type of, if they have no obstacles to go over, they're never going to progress. It's never going to, life is not easy. I'm sorry. Life is not a cakewalk. It's not easy. There are horrible, horrible days in life, and you have to have that in your back pocket, that you've been through situations that are hard before, so you can get through hard situations in the future. But I have seen what you're talking about more times than I can count. And it guts me every time, where it's like, if my kid doesn't get to D1 or my kid doesn't make it to pro, it's a complete failure. And this, I've put in so many hours. They've had private coaches and personal trainers and, cognitive coaches and video review coaches and this and this and this and this. And then it doesn't work out. It's like, nobody ever signed a dotted line and gave you a guarantee that anything was ever going to work out. But I know what definitely doesn't work out. It's not trying. It's not going for it. That's a guaranteed result every time. Quitting, not trying, not putting it all into it, that's a guaranteed result every single time. But you are giving it your best shot. And unfortunately, things are raising, like prices are going up, as you said, across the board. We're not just talking hockey. We're talking across the board. And a common topic of discussion is how expensive hockey is getting. And it's like, well, everything's going up too. It's not like, if it was just hockey on an island by itself going up, I think it's a different conversation. But everything is going up. And by osmosis, that means hockey's going to go up too. But that also means that it makes it harder for families to afford extracurriculars. And hockey is inherently expensive. Especially in the United States, where there's only certain pockets that can go do the outdoor game. When I lived in Canada, we were able to go skate on the ponds in the wintertime. But when I grew up on Long Island, I think there was one winter we were able to skate on a frozen pond my whole childhood. So you have to pay for structured ice, and it is expensive. So, I mean, it's tough. I get it. As a new father, I have a 2-year-old. We're looking, how's this going to work? Luckily, I'm in the business. Not everybody's in the business. I mean, but when it comes to any other sport, I'm not in the business, and those are going to be expensive too. It's very hard, and I understand the frustrations. But please don't look at it as I need my money back, because you're probably going to end up disappointed. Just if you look at the numbers, I mean, I'm sure you've looked at the numbers of the percentages of players that end up getting a Division I scholarship or making it to the CHL or making it pro. We're talking about very, very low to even fractions of percentage points. So, I mean, you're probably going to end up being disappointed if that is your motivation and your mindset as a parent.
Yeah, that's a great point because, like you said about after a certain point, it becomes a job for some of these players.
Sure.
Right. And I see it every day as well. And you could just tell, it's a job for them, and they have fun sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
When they're winning. Right. And other times when they're not winning or they're not performing, it's not fun. And once it becomes a job, once it tips, and usually that happens around the U15, 16 kind of time frame where you're going to have to start making that choice, right? Whether you want to go further or you want to just go, you know what, probably not for me. I'm not a good fit for this. Maybe I should try something else. And some people don't do that soon enough.
Yeah.
Right, where they just keep going because someone else was telling them that they should do it, and we laid this path down for you. And I think that happens more often than we think, and then it doesn't become fun anymore. And that's when you start to see them kind of get exhausted. They're tired. They're not enjoying going to the rink.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you hit it bang on. Not every day is fun, and trust me, like not every day for me is fun either.
Nope.
And same thing for you, right? Like we all have certain challenges that we have to get over, and it's for us to figure out, like we talked about earlier. But the hockey does prepare for that life skill, and just within. I mean, I played hockey here in Toronto, and I learned from a ton of people. Like growing up, it was like I went to these summer camps where we had Gordie Howe, Eric Lindros, Rick Vive. Oh my God, it's just let's went on and on and on. And I still talk to the people that I went to camp with to this day. And I was back then, I was like 13, 14 years old. So to me, like that network that we built and the timing of social media allows us to even have this conversation, right? Because if it didn't exist, we wouldn't even be here.
Yep.
And I think that to me is what makes me coming into this office a lot of fun to do. Like today's a Monday. For us, we don't actually train anybody on Mondays, and it's a day for us to just kind of chill out, but also catch up on different things. And this podcast was probably one of my main reasons why I came in. And I could have done it at home, but I'm like, you know what? I love coming into work. So this is like my place it's a destination.
Sure.
Where I get to at least kind of get away from some of the stuff, whether it be at home or at in the outside world, and then I'm surrounded by different people that I enjoy being. So I'm kind of like yourself, where not every day is rosy. And I think people need to understand that. The other interesting thing that you brought up was that statistic, right? Where you said, hey, a very small percentage of players actually make it, the rest don't. And I think I try to play both sides and make sure that parents understand that if the kid makes it, great, let him, right? Let him or her. And try not to stop them from doing so. And this is something that I've kind of discovered while we're running the sessions here. Sometimes the parents know nothing, and they know nothing about hockey. They entrust people like you or me to kind of help them move them along. And funny enough, some of those kids are the ones that make it further because the parents know nothing, and they want to build the structure to say, okay, I'm going to take him here. I'm going to trust these trainers because they seem to help my son the most or my daughter the most, and that's it. And the ones where the parents just kind of take a step back and let the kid go, I find those ones to be more hungrier, if that's even a term, to go further, because the kid feels accountable. The kid feels the one that they're responsible. There's no one else to help them except themselves. Whereas some parents, where they feel like that they know everything, and they're the ones like saying, this is, I know more than you, so you must do it this way, the kids will just kind of back off.
Yep.
I don't know if that's consistent with what you're finding.
100%. 100%. I think that sometimes ignorance can be a great thing, as from the parent point of view. And I think that I'm experiencing that a lot here. And it's a beautiful thing where they are just enjoying the process and they're supportive of their kids. We have the group that started this facility. All I hear is the most amazing things about these guys. They set in motion a culture, and when it's fresh clay, you can mold it the way you want it to. And I think that they did an amazing job of doing so, because the parents they don't know much about hockey here for the most part. And that's not a slight. They'll be the first people to tell you that. Like, that is not a state secret, but they are enjoying the process. The leadership group from the GM and the hockey director are carrying on the tradition of the original culture that was set in. And you're seeing a group that in 4 years has progressed faster than probably any other market that I worked in 4 years. Like, walking into the facility here, I couldn't tell you that some of these kids have only been playing for 2 or 3 years, 4 years since the rink has been open. They take a step back and they say, these guys are the professionals. That is why they are getting paid to do this. I am not going to step out of my lane here. I'm going to let them do their job. And it would be the same thing as if I showed up at one of their jobs and tried to tell them what to do. I'm not going to know what the hell I'm talking about. Like, but they're very mindful of that. And I'm unbelievably appreciative of that. Whereas in markets that I won't name, that wasn't necessarily the case. And I also think that there are some parents that may have played the game 40 years ago, 30 years ago, and they think that that's the way it should be played. It's not the way it's played anymore. So I'm sorry, but the information that you have, while it was relevant at the time, is completely outdated. The game has evolved. It's a totally different game now. Even from when I was playing, I've had to learn all of these things as a coach to be able to teach it. So taking that step back and just being a parent, and it's being supportive. You can be hard on your kid. You can tell them flat out, hey, I do not think that you played well. I may not know much about hockey, but from my optics, you did not look like you knew what you were doing out there today. And guess what? That's totally fine. It's totally fine. It's an observation. Hey, from the stands, I don't really know what I'm looking at here, but it didn't look right. Like something wasn't clicking in my brain. I've seen games where it looks like you're doing good things, and today wasn't one of them. I don't think any kid's going to go home and say, I hate mom and dad because they told me that I didn't look good from up there. Because that kid knows he didn't do well today. They know already, most of the time. I will say most of the time. But I like that idea of, like, let the professional be the professional, right? It's like, I don't know anything about plumbing. I know zero. I cannot hook up one pipe. I don't know a single thing. I'm not going to hover over the plumber while he's fixing something in my house and telling him that he's doing it wrong. Because who the hell am I to do that? I have no idea what I'm talking about. But people will take that same concept and go to a sports coach and tell them that they're doing something, or that they this, that, and the other. It doesn't make sense to me, but yet we deal with this every day. And I'm not trying to throw any shade, but I have a feeling it happens where you live more often than it should. I think that there are so many people. I lived in Canada for 3 years. I loved it there. I loved every minute of it. But you have a lot of people that think that they're experts on the game of hockey, and they're not.
Yeah.
And just let the pro be the pro. That's why you're in. If you're going to entrust somebody with your player's development, entrust them with it, or don't. It's pretty black and white as far as I'm concerned. We can be open and on the same team and transparent and this and that and the other. And you can say things that you think that you see and whatever the conversation may be, but it's not for you to hover over guys like you and me and other coaches and tell us what to do. Because if you knew what to do, you would be doing it without paying us. Mm-hmm. I think I'm a student of logic. And I think that just seems like a logical explanation to the entire situation. Please, correct me if you think I'm wrong. I mean, I've been wrong before. I just don't think that adds up. Is why would you pay a professional and then tell them what to do?
Exactly. I think you hit it bang on. And you know, I mean that's when I watch the interactions and you know, when the parents are here and I have an opportunity to chat with them, you know, quite extensively, like anytime that they're here. And yeah, so the parents that I find will be like, I don't know anything, but I just want them to work hard.
Yep.
You know, if there's adversity, I'm going to be there to, you know, hold their hand. If they're doing great, I'm going to continue to cheer them on regardless. And we see that, right? Like we see some of those successful players in the space that have parents that are just, you know, they're hard on them for sure. I know, right? You could just tell. Like if you look at, you know, Connor McDavid's dad, right? Like I've met Brian, you know, here and there throughout the rinks, and you could tell he's a tough guy, right? And but you know, but he's the biggest cheerleader. So I think that you know, that yin and yang kind of, you know, like the combination of the parents that are like, you know what, at a certain point he knows what he's talking about, let him decide what he wants to do, and just through his actions, his or her actions, they'll tell you whether they want to continue with it or not.
Sure.
So yeah, I think you know, and this is mostly just advice from both you and I to the parents community to say, listen, like the more structure you create for them, but let's get, you know, less tactical on how they should do their day to day, the more successful your kid's going to be, because then they feel like they own it. Right now, if you just continue to tell them how they should do it, they have no ownership of anything. And then you later tell them you need to be accountable and responsible. Like you're now talking from both sides of your mouth, right?
Oh, great point. Such a good point. And what would be their response if you tell them that? They just go, how? And then they look at you to tell them and how to be accountable, and you know, and then it's just this revolving circle. That's such a great point. It's you're not setting your child up for success. The person who does that is not setting their child up for success, as opposed to somebody who gives their child ownership over their actions in the future and gives them the ability to be able to make a mistake. They have to be able to make a mistake. And you can be there to support them when the mistake is made. You know, and if they know that they have the love and support, and again, being hard on them is fine, totally fine. I think that if you're too lackadaisical and too easy on a child, it can turn out to be just as bad, if not worse. They need that little bit of, you know, how do I put this? Like that discipline. Mm-hmm. Children need discipline, you know, but they look to you for support as a parent. They don't always want everything that comes out of your mouth to just be the scripture of how to live their life. I hope that made sense, because it surely did in my head.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that goes right back to trying to help them build life skills.
Yeah.
So, and that's what hockey is supposed to be, right?
Any sport, in my opinion.
Any sport.
Exactly. I think that hockey, I'm very biased on this, obviously, but I think that hockey truly does teach the best life lessons. I had a coach back in the day, John Parrish Jr. He's a very famous coach, and anybody who's listening, and yourself, I hope that you'll look him up. He is a legend. He's from the Maritimes. One of the brightest incredible coaches I've ever had in my life. And he told me a long time ago, he said, Jeff, hockey teaches you more about life than any other thing for this, if for this lesson alone. When you get hit, you fall down. Like life will teach you. You're going to get hit. You're going to fall down. Does the game stop? Do they blow the whistle? Do you get to huddle up with all your friends and your coach and everything and come up with a new plan of attack? Or do you have to get up right away and get back in the game and figure it out? And he goes, that's life. You're going to get knocked down. Life is not going to stop. Everything's going to keep moving forward at an incredible rate of speed. You have to be able to get up and get back in the game, because that is such a microcosm of life. If for nothing else that this game teaches us, in any other game, what happens? They stop. Everything stops. Not in ours. And I think that's a fantastic lesson to teach players about how that can transcend from the ice to the real life. And that you have to think on your toes. It's constantly changing, and it's at high speed, and you have to think ahead and plan for the future and plan for different eventualities and outcomes, and that you are looking for small, consistent successes to keep progressing. There's just so many that come from our game into off the ice into life, and I think it really is the best game to set up a child to be an adult, to be a good person, be a good citizen, unlike any other. And there are so many good life lessons in other games, but I just don't think that it's at the same level as ours. I just think it's something unbelievably special about our game, and I think that a lot of people recognize that. I think more people are starting to recognize it because the game is growing faster than ever. So, and I hope it continues to grow, because I hope that the game that gave me so much in my life can be experienced by countless others for infinity. Because, this game has been able to mold me as a person and my personality and my attributes as a man more than probably anything else that's ever happened in my life. And to this day, I'm a coach now, but I will always identify as a hockey player. I'm a hockey guy. I'm a hockey player. And even though I haven't played in a long time in a real competitive game, that'll never leave my personality traits. And I think that I owe a lot to this game and to all the coaches who, helped shape me and, on and off the ice. And it's such a team effort, and that it takes a village. It really takes a small town to a city. There's so many little pieces, and there are so many things that people have said that they probably don't even realize or recognize how important that one sentence statement, whatever it was, how that could change the trajectory of a player's life. It's so unbelievably profound.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And it makes a guy like me smile thinking about it. And I hope that people can see the beauty in that when they're signing their kids up, that to circle back, there's your ROI right there. I never became a pro. I train pros now, but I never became a pro. And I'll tell you, if you ask my parents, they are thrilled with the ROI. Because they see it every day. And I'll say that about a lot of guys that never even made it to college hockey. Unbelievable human beings. Best ROI they can get. They're going to be fantastic. Whether it's women that I've trained that are going to be fantastic wives, mothers, men are going to be fathers, husbands, whatever it may be. They're amazing, amazing people. And a lot of them will attribute it to the things that they learned playing hockey. And I don't think it gets any better than that.
Yeah, and like you said, there's no one path, right? Everybody's got a different path, and and I'll finish off with a little story that I'll share with you in terms of how I got to this point, right? So I started doing this like eight years ago with my son, right? Where he was super talented, had a lot of skills. We traveled all over the world getting, the lessons from some of the best people, because back then there was none of this collaborative stuff, right? We had to go to Latvia and Russia and Austria and Germany, and so we did all the tour. And the one thing that I found with him is he had the talent, but he couldn't see the ice. He couldn't make better, he couldn't make the decisions, and so that's why I developed this whole thing in the first place, right? So, it's one of those things where it's like discipline for sure, having the structure, trying to make each day a fun day to work, come into work, even if it's not. And I think that kind of encapsulates, everything, because after time, 8 years later, your dream might come true. You just never know it. And so I always try to tell people, yes, 99% of the time, you're probably not going to make it to the show. But on the flip side, well, somebody's got to make it. Who's it going to be? Is that going to be you, or is that going to be someone else? And so I try to use a little bit of, neuro-linguistic programming, NLP and stuff to motivate people to say, hey, someone still has to get to the NHL. Who's that going to be?
100%.
Right?
Never take – firstly, that's a beautiful story. That's an amazing story.
I'm
really happy you shared that with me. That's really something. And 10 years ago, I was working at a bar and pizza place in Cancun. 10 years ago today. And I started my coaching career a couple of months. Like in a couple of months, it'll officially be 10 years since I started coaching. And if you had said to me 10 years ago today, while I was working at a bar in Cancun, Mexico, that 10 years from now, you'd be working with, first-round draft picks and NHL players and pros all over the world and running camps for thousands of players, I'd say you're nuts. It's amazing when you find that thing that you were meant to do, how, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. And I know that it didn't just happen for you overnight. You didn't just wake up and have Dylan Strome in your garage. It took a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of probably sleepless nights and all the other things that come with entrepreneurship. And it's all of it. And you compact it in. And you learned a lot of those lessons on the ice without ever even knowing it. There's your ROI.
Exactly.
Your attrition. I'm shooting in the dark here, but I know from speaking about myself, there was quite a few times where I said, why am I doing this? This is unbelievably hard. I could just go back to the restaurant business right now and I wouldn't have this stress and all these things. But then I'm reminded of how it's helping people, how it's helping me, that this is what I love to do more than anything in the world. And it gets me going. And I'm right back on the horse. I mean, obviously what we do is a ton of fun. Like, we get to have a lot of fun in the overall. But there are certainly those moments that really test us. And if it wasn't for that love and that passion and the lessons that we learned playing the game, who knows if you would have that in you to keep going. You don't know. You just don't know. And I think that type of lesson shows more when people don't play sports. They don't have those lessons necessarily taught to them. I think that it's much easier for a young person to understand through a sport, especially hockey, than it is to not. And being able to see the work that you put in with somebody pay off for them, and that look on their face when they know that it was something that you guys like. I have to assume that you get text messages and phone calls from parents and players that the thing that you worked on in your previous session was done that weekend and it worked.
Absolutely, all the time.
Is that not like one of the greatest feelings in the world?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I was like, in that game that I was talking about earlier, there was a player, we've been working on this two-handed puck protection for like 3 months, and he finally did it, and he scored. And before he scored, he did it 4 or 5 times, and it was working, but he didn't score. And he said to me, "It's working. It's working. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep doing it." And then he did it, and it worked off for the goal finally. Not that it didn't work before. He finally scored. My soul was out here, and I feel his joy.
Yeah.
And it's just, you can't buy that. You can't buy that feeling. And he or she, they're going to have that forever. That they put in the work, and they went through failure after lost puck after bad rep, all these things. And then when they needed it the most in an important setting, it paid off. That's what an amazing feeling for everybody involved. Everybody. For the people that are paying the bill for them to come fail in the morning, for the player that's waking up at 4:30 to drive 45 minutes to the rink to come work on these things, for me teaching them, for their teammates that get to experience the joy of the goal. I mean, you're just talking about this. It just keeps going and going and going, and it's just such an amazing feeling. And they'll take that, and it will be able to be applied to their everyday life, and they'll be a better person for it. And then we sit back and we go, I had a small piece of that human's development, not just player, but that person's development. And it's for all the words that I just said, I find myself speechless. Just
Yeah, absolutely. I think the analogy that I kind of equate those scenarios is, it's almost like when we go to play golf. Right? It's like, trust me, I play rounds and I'm like, why am I here? Why am I spending 6 hours of my time to hit balls that spray everywhere? And I've used up my box of dozen balls, but then there's that one shot that just goes dead straight to exactly where you want it to be, right? Like pin high or whatever the case may happens to be. And you're like, okay, that's what's going to keep you coming back.
yeah.
Right. But I think, like it's interesting because I always call it a North Star, right? Like, what is your North Star? What is it that keeps you getting up in the morning and kind of getting aligned with it? Otherwise, if you don't have that, there's a very good chance that you're kind of floating around. And I always say, well, what's your North Star? And then they say, oh, I wanna do this. I wanna be here. I wanna be there. Okay, great. Like, why is that important to you?
Mm-hmm.
Some people can have a clear answer, and most people cannot.
Yeah.
They don't really understand why they're doing it. But I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's an opportunity for them to actually discover and go, why am I playing this sport? Right? And are there other opportunities? And sometimes, trust me, like I get kids in here that I've trained for like 4 or 5 years, actually probably even longer. And so one of my players, his name is Colin Smith, and I love Colin. And I said, dude, like he's my son's age now, so he's 19, 20. And to this day, I go, Colin, you're going to be the best salesperson on this planet. With the way that you like try to convince me to do something, and you collected all this research, and you're like, hey, here's what I think we can do, and he's like one of those guys that can sell ice to Eskimos kind of analogy guy, right? It's like I said, I will hire you as soon as you're done school, and you'll be the best sales business development person ever. And other people, I'm like, you're the best marketing person that I would ever hire. And that's all from hockey, like, because they are creative, they're trying to learn, they're trying to improve themselves, they take feedback from guys like us and actually implement it in their own way, and then they build their own identity. And I think that's the other missing piece, and for a lot of kids, is that they don't have an identity. And so I want to be able to help them find that, with or without hockey. But as long as they're in the game, they'll do great. They'll do great in life. And so I think it's also important for coaches like us to express that sometimes, right? And where it's like, you know what, even if it doesn't work out for you, don't worry about it. There's other things that you could do. I had a kid here a long time ago that was here religiously because their parents saw that the kids' peers were here, and they're competitive by nature. So they felt like their kid had to participate in our program, but the kid had no interest in being here, and that's okay, right? But what he was really interested in was robotics.
Mm.
And I said to the parents, I said, this kid should not be playing AAA, first of all. And secondly, this kid loves robotics. This kid loves math. He remembers everything. And I know that by training some of the stuff here, because we incorporate memory. Like I have the data that says this kid is intellectually like advanced. So sure enough, they took him out of AAA hockey because it's, sometimes it get pretty toxic here.
For sure.
And the kid went AA, loves it. And sure enough, he's in robotics competitions and he wins them.
That's awesome.
So sometimes they may not necessarily be, on that path. That North Star might be something else that the parents didn't even know about. So I think that's another important point. But yeah, I don't know if you have any last thoughts, Jeff, because I know we're kind of coming up to 2 hours because this is awesome.
This has been a fantastic conversation. Yeah, I could probably go another 2 hours, but I do have to run. So
yeah,
this has been great, and I'm sorry it took so long to.
No, not at all, man.
This has really been great, and I enjoy having these conversations. It's so helpful for even us to be able to articulate our own thoughts sometimes, and speak with other like-minded people who have similar viewpoints, but also some contradictory ones, and be able to find common ground. And I hope that the parents and players enjoyed what we had to speak about today, and probably throw a shameless plug in there. And, if you want to check us out on Instagram, it's Vanguard Hockey INT, and check out vanguardhockey.com, and you can reach out anytime. And I really appreciate you having me on. This has really been a great conversation, and I hope you'll have me back and be able to do it again and be able to elaborate on more topics, because this has just been really great and a lot of fun. So thank you very much, Satoshi.
Yeah, no, pleasure. I love these types of conversations, and it's very engaging, and it makes our day even more exciting. So I really appreciate you coming on today, and we'll definitely have you on very, very soon after some of the camps are done. So maybe during maybe the summer, tail end of summer, when guys have left, maybe we'll catch up again soon. But we'll keep chatting
for sure. You let me know.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate everybody kind of sticking around for if you did. And we'll definitely have some really great guest speakers coming on in the future as well. So we look forward to that, and hope you guys have a great day, and we'll talk to you very soon. Thank you very much.
Cheers.